Good evening, guys. This is the Band of Barbers podcast. I'm your host, Devo the Barber, also known as Devon Evans. Thank you guys again for joining me. I'm glad that you guys are here this evening with me. Um, got a little more energy today. Long day. I went and took a class today on color formulation in Northern Virginia at Paul's Beauty Warehouse. If you are in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, licensed barber, and never been to Paul's Beauty Warehouse, you don't know what you're missing. I'm telling you, you do not know what you're missing. It is by far, to me, one of the best places as far as overall beauty supply, hair, whatever. It's one of the best places I've ever been. Like I said, today I took a color formulation class, and I'm going to be taking a few more classes with them through the end of the year, just trying to freshen up my skills. Color is not something that I I do. I provide as a service. I understand the basics. Well, I understand more of the basics now and things like that. But it is something that I'm thinking that I may add to my service list at some point. Going to do a little more practice, going to do a little more work, figure some things out. But color is interesting. I will say that. Color is very, very interesting. Overall, it was a great class, affordable class. It was a small class. There was only, I was one of two, and it really felt individual. It really felt personal. I was able to ask a lot of questions. I wasn't I wasn't ashamed. Like, that's normally, for barbers, we leave color up to the salons, or we call it that salon stuff. We call it, we're taught, we're taught color in school. It's in the Milady textbook. It's in the Pivot Point textbook. There's no reason that it should be in either one of those books and we're not doing anything with it. That's just my opinion. We're not doing anything with it. We're cutting ourselves short. We're leaving money on the table. And, it's just not something that I would like to do. I don't want to leave money on the table. It's crazy. So, going to be something that I'm definitely adding to the repertoire, to the service list. As the school gets more in force, I will be cutting back my clientele, but I will be adding these services to my service list as well. Just bringing it in, bringing some new services in. I think it'll be pretty cool. Probably going to do just a lot of, gray coverage, which I'm cool with. I can't necessarily say I want to get into the platform artist type color. But I may get into it and actually really like it. I don't know. Right now, covering grays is good for me. I'm cool with covering grays. So, again, very interesting class. If you have a chance to look it up, Paul's Beauty Warehouse, they have 3 locations. I think they have one in Springfield, Virginia, one in Baltimore, Maryland, and one in Capitol Heights, Maryland. I think those are the 3 that they have. Never been there, never heard of it, never seen it. Stop by, check it out. Great location, great place. Really enjoy it for not only their supplies, but I've been there a few times to buy supplies, but going there to get some education, it just made the place even better for me. I'm I'm going to be a customer for as long as it's around because it's just an awesome place. Amazing, amazing, amazing place. So now that I gave my little plug about Paul's Beauty Warehouse and kind of what I did today on my off Monday, let's kind of get into the episode. So today I'm going to talk out and think about some different ideas. I've been toying around with writing some books and things of that nature. And, for me personally, I think that one of the things that are missing in the barbering industry is personal development. I do. So any of my writings, any of my books in the future, I'm telling you now, if you read something from me, it is going to involve personal development. It just is. It's going to involve personal development, growth, putting your pride to the side. All of these things, it's going to have personal development in it. From what the barber mindset and the way a barber thinks to just some good revelations and some good scenarios and settings for barbers, really talking about the mindset, and one of the things that I believe is one, stinking thinking gets stinking results. So if your mindset's all jacked up, if you're thinking negative all the time, if you believe everybody's out to get you or people aren't rocking with dope, stinking thinking gets stinking results. Right? That's just what it is. Really kind of plain and simple. Nothing complicated to that idea or that theory. It's as plain as can be. Also, with the barber mindset and the way that the barber thinks, we a lot of times as barbers we oversimplify and complicate at the same time. We oversimplify a lot of times in thinking, and when I say oversimplify, barbers will oversimplify and say, just because I am a great technician, my chair should be full. And why is a barber who is not as technically sound as me working more, earning more, busier, or things like that? And I believe it goes into the idea of sometimes the technically sound barber or the best barber can sometimes have the pretty girl or pretty boy syndrome, or pretty girl or handsome guy syndrome, however you want to call it. We all can kind of remember, those people that we maybe went to school with and, was a female may have been very pretty or a guy that was handsome, the jock, the super athlete or the head cheerleader or something like that. And they knew that their physical presentation was pleasing to the eye. I don't know about you, but for me, generally, those people had some of the worst personalities I have ever dealt with. They were mean, they were stuck up, they were rude, they were just on a whole nother level of just nonsense, in my opinion. They offered and brought nothing else to the table besides look at me. And I think sometimes as a barber with high skill, you know, or top tier skill, especially in, you know, a shop or something like that, the barber thinks that the only thing they have to do or had to do was get good at what they were doing, the process or the skill set that they needed to achieve a certain look. And they cared nothing about anything else. They cared, honestly, I don't know where my energy went. I'm sorry. I apologize, guys. Honestly, I will say this. A lot of times, you know, they have all of this skill, and the haircut and the result of the haircut is all they care about. They don't necessarily really care about the customer. They have a mindset of, look how well I can cut hair. They don't think about, look how I treat my customers. Look how I gain and grow my customer base. Look how I do. They don't do any of those things. They're just solely focused on, I have the skill to do these things. And again, I will point out a very obvious point that I was told young in my apprenticeship. Most people don't care how well you cut hair. So for my technicians out there, for my extreme technicians that became very skilled as a barber but have crappy customer service, they're always late, they never show up on time, they cancel appointments at the last minute. If they do, you know, they do show up, they're running behind. All of these things happen. Generally, that's what happens with that group or type of barber. And he or she is frustrated because they can't understand how a person who, and I'm going to be honest, this is just kind of how it works. A person who is consistent, a person who takes clients, a person who is there, a person who is working, a person who is present, they can't understand how this person is generating more revenue than they are. I'm the best thing in the shop, but I ain't got no customers. It obviously has nothing to do with your technical skills. But they will beat their head against the wall saying that it's not fair that someone who is consistent in more than just their who is consistent in more than just their skill set can generate more income than they can. A person who is not picking and choosing who they want, a person who is present, a person who shows pretty girl syndrome. It's just pretty girl syndrome. You know, and I say to you or to anyone else who was that barber, Sports Clips, Fantastic Sam's, Hair Cuttery, uh, you know, all of those places who provide a subpar service have something that makes customers come back. Obviously, their customers don't care how well or how bad they cut hair. And you've developed such a high standard, and it's great to have a high standard for yourself, but you're in this to make a living. And a part of making a living, especially if you're a booth rent type or style barber, a part of making a living is being there and being consistent. Now, if you're okay, me personally, since the school has been in its infancy and in its process, the school, since the school has been doing that, I have stepped back more and more from being in the shop all the time because there's things that I need to take care of as far as developing the school. There are things that I need to take care of as far as developing the school. But that's a conscious thing that I accept, that I'm okay with, and that I can live with. On the days that I am in the shop, I might say something about it being slow, but 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to complain about it being slow. I'm not. I'm not going to complain about it being slow. Why? Because I accept my responsibility and my role in the situation that caused me as a barber to be slow. The shrinkage of my customer base or and things like that was, one, done intentionally so that I could transition into the school setting, into the schoolhouse. Did that intentionally. I couldn't cut 10, 15 heads a day and maintain and do all the work that needed to be done for the school. I promise you I couldn't. Had I kept up the workload and not taken it and not slowed down so much from that to build. I'm so sorry, guys. Had I kept up the workload and not slowed down enough to build what I needed to do as far as the school, and we may talk about it one day. Doing the paperwork to get a school is a very labor intensive process. It is labor intensive. There are so many things that you have to think about. You can't just throw it together. It doesn't just happen overnight. And that's why most people don't actually do it, because it is not an easy process. It's not. It's a lot of things that you have to think about as far as your business structure for your school. There's a lot of things that you have to think about that most people don't. Right? They just don't. But anyways, back to the pretty girl syndrome barber. It hurts me when I see that, because I think sometimes they feel as if they're creating scarcity, and it's not necessarily scarcity, it's more inconsistency. It's more inconsistency than it is scarcity. Hate it or love it. Hate it or love it, that's the reality. It's inconsistency. Now, again, like I said, you willing to take the responsibility for that? That's fine. But you don't get to do that and also complain about the tempo and things at the same time. You don't get to complain about another barber who's busy when you don't get to do that. You made your choice and they made theirs. Which leads me to another thing. Also, take care of yourself. Physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. And that's to all barbers. That's not to just a pretty girl, handsome dude situation. That's not just to them. It's to everybody. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Save some money, put it away for a rainy day. Stretch, drink water. Take care of yourself. This is a career that you're standing a lot, you're putting a lot of pressure on your knees, your ankles, your lower back, your wrist. You're putting pressure on all of that. So I'm gonna need you to take care of yourself. 100%. Take care of you. Now, this was supposed to be a podcast about, my ideas and thoughts behind books and what I could see myself writing. And we talked about it. We talked about personal development, and stinking thinking, mindset, thought process, and one of the things that I don't think I did touch on would probably be the business of barbering. And that's a very important thing for those who are looking or want to look into getting their own shop, expanding, doing all of those types of things, leaving and going to find somewhere else. It's very important that you also understand the business. You need to understand what a triple N lease is. You need to understand what your potential construction cost is if you're looking at a space, renovation costs if you're looking at a space. You need to understand all of those things. You need to understand where and how to get affordable chairs, how and where to get affordable products, and if you use, one of the ideas I brought to the shop I worked in before I opened the school was a vending area. I sold products for a while, and then I backed off the products somewhat, and I really went into just products. When I say products, I'm talking about like hair care products and doodads and gadgets and little small trinket type stuff. That was one thing. But one of the things that I noticed, or one of the things I also had, was a vending area. I had a little small refrigerator with some drinks, and then I had a little area where I had some snacks and snacks and sweets and all that type of stuff. And what really ended up happening, what my reasoning for bringing it into the shop was so that the shop as a whole could generate the money to buy paper towels, toilet paper, cleaning supplies. If nobody has to just jump out of pocket with something, it's best to create a stream of revenue. And that's really that was the whole purpose. I didn't know nobody else's budget, but I said, hey, we got to a point one summer where we were going to the business next door because they sold sodas and drinks and stuff, and we're going over there and buying their stuff. And I said, well, that doesn't make sense. If we're going to spend the money anyways, at least we can spend it here and fund some renewables within the business. Sorry, not renewables, consumables. So, just think about that. Think about that and understanding the business. Understanding that if you take up space in a retail space, you take up space to provide retail within your shop. It's my theory that retail space, depending on what the size is, should generate income. And if you know how much you want to generate, then you know how to set the price. You know what the price is. You understand what the price is. Now for my booth rental shops, I say, okay, an average station area is about 5x7. And so I say, okay, if I put one item in this space, I measure how big it is, it's 2x2 or 2.5x2. So that means that generally in that area, or the 2x2, if the total is a 5x7 area, you can fit a decent sized product display in there, whether it's a vending machine or it's actual hair care products. You can fit that in there. Now, if it's two 2x2 areas, then whatever your booth rent is, based on that space or square footage, is what you should be your goal to produce out of products or vending. These are little business tips. Don't just guess. Understand the numbers. Know the numbers. If you're buying snacks and stuff, get you a Costco or a Sam's Club or something like. Get a deal with them. The one thing that I like about Sam's Club is that their pricing, they put up these big white sheets of paper with the price on it, and they also show the unit cost. I generally like to stay in the 50 to 48% because I generally like to stay in the 50 to 48% profit on whatever the unit price is. It's just as simple. 48 to 50% profit based on the unit price and what you're going to sell it for. If you can kind of stay in that zone, you'll be okay. You will be okay as far as profit, as long as you have the supply chain pretty much figured out, which means that, and when I say supply chain for like vending, it's just going to the store to get stuff when you're running low or running out. That's it. There's your supply chain. There's your supply chain. So, gave you guys a little business stuff too. It is now 11:36. I got to do some editing. I got to do some things. And I'm going to get off of here for the evening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you made it all the way to the end, please, 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 if you're in the DMV area or if you're like me and you travel around the area, if you're ever in the DMV area, look up a Paul's Beauty Warehouse, stop by, register. You won't be upset. And they also got an app and a website that you can order from as well. Check them out. Please check them out. Please, please, please check them out. I promise you won't be upset. That being said, please, please like, comment, share, subscribe so we can do what? Grow the tribe. Please. This is the Band of Barbers podcast. I'm your host, Devo the Barber, aka Devon Evans, or to my students, Mr. Evans. I'm that guy. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share with you guys. Please talk to us. I believe right now we just got approved, and I think now our podcast is on Apple Podcasts. Shout out to all my Apple users. I'm going to work on the Google Podcast after this episode, so we'll be there now too. So we'll be Apple, Spotify, and Google once I get that all sorted out. Either way, guys, thank you. I appreciate you guys. I'll get back with you guys tomorrow. Gonna try to shoot a little earlier in the day. I know I always say that, but my goal is just to put out an episode every day, and most of the time, this is the only time I have available. And so I appreciate you guys rocking with me. I'm sorry about the random yawns throughout the night. It is late. But I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to give you guys these episodes every single day. I don't know when I'm going to stop. At this point, it's just kind of become part of my day. So I'm probably not going to stop. Maybe we'll stop to restructure it at some point, but by the time that we stop to restructure it, you'll have so much content that you can go back and listen to. But for me, honestly, there's no end in sight. We're going to keep doing this. The Band of Barbers podcast, we rocking out. Join the band if you need to. Get with us. Join the band. All right? Join the band, become a band member. Some of you may not have played an instrument in school, but you use instruments every day. Those clippers, those scissors, shears, combs, blow dryers, instruments of beauty, instruments of personal care. Every single day you use these things. You guys have a good night. I'll catch you tomorrow.